And you, Sushil, you drank ayahuasca before?
No, this was my first time.
The first time here.
I don't have too much psychedelic experience either.
Mm-hmm.
And I came here because of my close friend, one of my closest friends, Tio. He drank ayahuasca in 2015 and made like very huge life changes. He actually decided to move to Brazil, and a lot of people thought he's crazy. And like when people see someone going against what seems normal, or normal in quotes, then this person, something wrong with him. But I felt like maybe he's become too sane, or maybe he has really found the true sanity within himself, and he's reconnected with nature, reconnected with the planet. And it felt like something I wanted to do. I wanted to experience what he experienced. He told me he worked with a lot of trauma, and I personally have a traumatic childhood. And speaking of trauma, the conversation I had with my mom before the trip was that my mom was worried that I would come here and then I'll relive all my trauma and I'll blame her for everything. And after going through this retreat, I felt like through the workshops and through the teachings, the idea isn't to find villains in your life, but it's how to be a hero in your own life. Another insight which I had was that we are a product of exponential amount of trauma. It's like we have 2 parents, they have 4 parents and 16, and it's like a funnel or a pyramid, and we are the product of that, and we are also the source of like an infinite exponential source of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And doing this work for yourself is not a selfish work. It is actually a great work of activism. You're breaking the chain. You're ending that pyramid, and at least like one person changing would actually create such a great impact. Yeah.
So you realized that you were carrying a lot of generational trauma in your life.
Yes.
Can you explain a little more that?
Yeah. So my mom and dad, they grew up in post-independence India after the British left. So they have seen abject poverty. And my father has been in a position where he didn't have money for lunch, or food for lunch, so he would come back home from school, drink a glass of water, and then go back. That's the amount of starvation that he's seen. And his parents before that also saw a lot of suffering, like beating children and domestic abuse and all these issues that are not as rampant now, maybe not as much as they used to be, but I feel like all of those leave marks on the next generation little by little. Like my fears about money and the unknown, there's a constant anxiety about the unknown. What is wrong with my health? How am I going to make money? Like I said, I'm between careers, so I'm like constantly afraid. I need to have a job, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I'm like so much in my head. It's like always like there's always chatter that I don't know what I'm going to do next, and I feel like some of these fears have come down from my parents. They're not my own, and they come from programming. Like money doesn't come easily, money doesn't grow on trees, you have to hoard money, and all of that has.
Or in order to earn money, you have to work all the time.
Yes.
That is another myth that we believe.
Or you have to do something that you're not fond of, you're not happy doing. And all of that I felt like was dictating my life until this point. And I saw so much, I can't even explain. I saw like different planes of existence, different traumas from my life, things that I couldn't remember for many, many years. And I was able to be there for myself thanks to the workshops. I feel like I had one psychedelic experience before this, and I felt like it wasn't in a retreat or like a healing situation. It was more like with friends, and I feel like that was like horrific for me. But having the tools here and having that support system of my friend and Sylvia, and then like doing the techniques over and over during the ceremonies was immensely helpful. And I'm not going to say each of those ceremonies was pleasurable. It was like some of them were horrific. Like I got paranoid as well, I felt like maybe my family is right. Maybe they'll brainwash me. I'll move in the jungle, change my name. And it was all in my head. I just realized all of this is in my head.
And how did you revert that?
Um, I
or
felt
not? Or not?
I did. I did.
Ah.
I felt like it is unnecessary suffering.
Again, we are producing our own suffering, but always blaming outside. Somebody else is the problem. But what we are doing to suffer? It is necessary, really?
No, and I think what Theo said to me during the last ceremony came to mind. Is it suffering for the sake of suffering, or is it suffering for learning something, or is there constant movement? If there's movement, you're learning lessons from that suffering, then okay, suffering was worth something. But if it's like constant torture, like I
It's
don't
an
know,
addiction
it's an addiction.
to
Then
suffer. We are addicted, but we never think suffering as something that we can be addicted. So we need more. And the moment you start, it's growing, and then you more, and you need more things to feed this suffering.
Mm.
And you come in.
I came here. I'm looking for some healing from many years of going through some relationships and difficulties and a lot of pain, and my whole experience was completely incredible. The workshops were extremely powerful tools to use when we get with Mother Ayahuasca. It makes you go a lot deeper, and the answers that you come to yourself are powerful. I mean, it's like a lot of times like going to therapy, and the therapist, tells you to look deeper and work on doing certain things in your therapy. And sometimes none of that like makes sense, and it doesn't, it's hard to connect all those dots together. When with workshops and then doing the ceremonies, a lot of that stuff just becomes really clear, and it starts to make more sense. And
Can you give us an example?
an example of connecting the dots would be, the self-love. Love yourself. And a lot of times the question would always come up to me like, what is self-love? This is kind of a crazy thought. But during the ceremonies, I actually, Mother Ayahuasca came to me and literally gave me that sense of self-love and connection with my authentic self. And it was extremely powerful, extremely powerful.
You know that the lack of self-love starts in the childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Because of a trauma, a child may decide I am not good enough, or my parents divorced because of my fault, or I am a burden. So these type of decisions that children take because they are thinking that everything is because of them. And then you forgot that decision, and you grow, you became a woman, but you think I am not good enough.
Yeah.
I am a burden, or I don't deserve to be loved. So if you really think this inside of you, you will attract this type of partner
Yes.
that will give you that,
Yes.
because we are attracting in an unconscious way.
Yes.
So you discover when was the first time that you decided that?
The trauma that I came to, that I found that I felt that unworthiness inside, was probably around 5 or 6 years old. And in the ceremonies, I was able to confront that a little bit and let it go. And that's where a lot of that inner discovery of, yes, I am worthy of love and real love, not superficial love. So that was a very powerful thing. And during a couple of the ceremonies, and the first ceremony, I believe Mother Ayahuasca was very gentle with me to make me feel safe and not like throw a lot at me all at once. So and I think the workshops also kind of help enter into this in a very comforting, safe way. And then as the workshops progressed, I didn't have like a bad trip, but they got difficult where you had to go in and do some really hard work. And some of those insights that I took from that were some of the things that I've learned from my parents and the generations before me, and realized how I had actually passed those down to my children, and the traumas that I've created in my own children's life. So, that being said, I've got work to do when I go home to
Now
try
you
and-
realize that you couldn't do something
Right.
different
No,
before.
I understand that I'm the one breaking that cycle, and I'm going to stop that behavior, and my children can, heal from my traumas and help them heal from the traumas that I've caused within them.
Yeah.
And then they can go forward and release that so that their children can grow up with less trauma and peace.
We are always doing the best we can. So, some people feel so guilty, but it's impossible to do something better if you don't have the knowledge. What really happened there? And you don't have the tools.
Yeah.
Our parents didn't have this possibility to learn these tools. Now you have this possibility, so you will cut this and you will pass this to your children, if you have children, or we stop there. What happened a lot is after you go back, your family start changing, start getting better. Even if they never drink ayahuasca or they don't do psychotherapy, nothing. Just because you are changing, they are slowly changing. Because the family is like it's a system. So if one change, the rest are changing. So it's like a responsibility, no?
Yeah.
Why, if I can start the process to understanding all the suffering, generation after generation, and trauma, and paranoia, and starving, persecution, and why we have to still live in that state. It's not happening anymore, but it's inside of me.
Yeah, and Trent and I were talking this morning about going back home now, and we were both asking, like, are we nervous to go back home? And my response to him was that I am nervous. I'm nervous just because I know it's definitely gonna take work to keep everything that I've learned here and apply that into my daily life as I go forward. But I have confidence in myself that the transformation will be a pleasant one.
Well, your insight about the lack of love for yourself is powerful. And when you discover how to start healing that, which is loving unconditionally your inner child. It's like you imagine your child and you start, when you are scared or sad, you have your inner child and you rescue this child from the pain. So when you love unconditionally this child and you convince this child that he or she is wonderful, is perfect, then you love yourself and you will never have again a partner that will mistreat you. You will not find that type of people in your life.
Yeah.
Because you changed the channel already.
Yeah, and that was, one of the things we were discussing is that there's going to be some people presently in my life that I'm going to have to let go just because it does not serve me anymore.
Good. Camille, can you explain a little more? It's very interesting, and also it's so common when people don't have a very good self-esteem, and the pattern of behavior is you keep meeting people that are not nice with you. It's so common, but also I hear that people say, no, but that guy was not that good, my boyfriend was mistreating me. It's like they don't realize what they are doing to find these type of people.
To me, it came to, I think what I understood from it was that because my self-worth was not higher and I didn't have that love, I wasn't looking for that quality of people around me, and that includes friends and family and partners. So it self-worth has a lot to do with the quality of people that you attract.
And you must be doing things in the past to show that you are not good. You can mistreat me. You can do.
Yeah.
You must be doing things
Yeah.
without realizing, like in an invitation.
Yes.
You can't disrespect me.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. It's a vibe that you put out there to the universe that people pick up on, and they somehow know that they can get away with.
Yeah, they will come.
Yes, they will
no?
come.
Because
Like,
there is food there.
yes,
no?
they will. Very much so.
This
And
is
they are
so
very
in-
attracted to that when that's what their level is at. So, in one of the workshops, the last one was all about being present, and that is one that I think I'm going to imply a lot when it comes to that, making sure that I'm being present with myself and aware of what I'm putting out in the universe so that I'm not attracting those kind of people to me. So,
And have a lot to do also with the lack of clarity.
mhm.
That people interpret, okay, it's okay to do this because you are not talking. No, you cannot do this. Or I want that, I don't want that. So when people have low self-esteem, they are not clear. You cannot express what you want because you feel that you don't have the right.
No, in fact, I would say people pleasing is one of those things that I did a lot because of the low self-esteem.
And then you feel angry with yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm giving up people pleasing as well. If it's not serving my best interests, it's gonna have to.
It's like a betray to your own essence
Mhm.
when you please people.
Yeah.
Because if you please when you are afraid that people will not like me, they will not love me, so I have to be what they want. So you stop being yourself, and then you have to pretend always.
Yeah.
If-
But I also realized that I can't please somebody else. That's not my job.
Hmm.
That's their job.
At least you will know the ones that will stay is because they like you,
Yeah.
not the one you are pretending.
Yeah.
And it's a relief.
Yeah.
I can be myself, and they like me.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
surprisingly.
And appreciate those people more too.
I remember that when a long time ago, when I started working in psychotherapy, I started having patients, and a lot of women were beaten, and they divorced and they married another guy, and again, no, but how come this is possible? They are so bad luck, and it's not.
It's the loop we get in.
Yeah, and it's like takes two to tango. It's a game that you are playing with another person. This type of people with very low self-esteem, they will keep finding the same until they start loving themselves, giving unconditional love to the child.
Yeah.
So it's also generation after generation. Imagine in the times women value nothing. It was very bad. You don't have the right to study or to decide, or you have to obey, or you are. And a lot of women are being in that violence.
Yeah.
A lot of slaves, sex slaves.
Yeah.
That is big in the world today. But now we have more information, more resources.
Yeah.
We all have a lot of that inside, even though we never experience that in our present life. But we have these things for other generations. You wanted to say something?
Yes. to add to Camille's point, like I think one of the greatest gifts of this retreat was self-acceptance for me. Sort of explain, I've always been very uncomfortable in my skin all my life, and growing up I was darker than the other kids, and I would be called like Kalia by the other kids, which means translates to blackie in a very derogatory term, and I always felt like less, worthy, and felt like lesser than anyone else within myself. Although I would try to do, like, I had the achiever mindset, I would be externally trying to come first in school, doing all of those things externally. Inside, I always felt like no matter what, I'll always be blackie, or I'll always be that kid who was humiliated in front of everyone. So, in this retreat, not only under ayahuasca, but there is a greater sense of acceptance. I felt like I could be free with my body. I could go in the pool and not feel conscious about myself. I felt very playful, and it was amazing in terms of like so many insights that I received during the workshops and the ceremony about like self-worth. I was really able to be there for my inner child and tell him that he doesn't have to do anything for me to love him. Unconditional. It's not dependent on how I look. It's not dependent on what I do. I will be there to love you irrespective of what you are or how you are, or, like, everything.
And we will have temptations once you go back. You go back to your everyday life, the temptations come to go back to the traumas and start behaving the same. So you have to wake up in the moment before you enter in the paranoia, or before you enter in the lack of joy, or I have to suffer, or no. We need to realize before, because in the moment you enter, then you forget. You are in trance, and then you are like a robot, repeating. Freud used to talk about the compulsion to repetition. This is people, compulsion to repetition, and you will do it again in different countries with different people, and it's the same again. The only way is to wake up. In order to wake up, we need energy. So if we waste our energy with bad habits, then we don't have enough energy to realize, oh, I am doing it again, stop here. No? And something very important, to realize how we are producing our own suffering. It's not mandatory, we can stop. Okay? And use the power to protect the child, because it's the child that is scared. You think ayahuasca is safe? You will recommend to a loved one to do ayahuasca? Is safe?
Oh, absolutely. Safe.
Yeah, I would say I would definitely recommend it. I know that I'm going to be experiencing this again for sure. And I guess one thing I wanted to say is that one lesson that Sylvia, you've always said that I think rung so true for me is that with ayahuasca you get what you need, not necessarily what you came looking for. So I feel like I came here looking for, like, I need to know the answer to this. And what ayahuasca does is just peels back the layers to your question. It doesn't answer your question like go this way or that way. It's not what it does. It just peels back all these layers that are the reason that you have the question in the first place. So that lesson, I think, just that it gives you what you need, is so true, and I think we can all attest to that. And so that's why I think that it's a beautiful experience for people to give a try.
What surprised me about ayahuasca is how you never know what to expect, but you always get what you put in. No matter what it is, and the more effort you're going to put in to be clean of mind and body, the more effort you're going to put in to try and know yourself, the more you're going to get out of it. And the other thing that touched on Sushil's point before that surprised me is the power of the group. I think having a group of people, and this is something you talk about on your website, this is something you evoke multiple times, is so incredibly important. I think we were incredibly lucky to have an amazing group this week, but even if it's not a wonderful group, even if there are people that you don't get along with, this is an incredible tool to use and to understand what triggers you.
Yeah, especially when we don't like somebody or a person is irritating me, it's because we are projecting something from our shadow to this person. In the moment you realize, oh, this is me, I do this, then you make peace with this person. The problem is always inside. It was a pleasure to meet you, and thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you
too.
very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.